Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're looking at United Overseas Bank.
UOB.
Yeah, a UOB. They're a big player in Asian finance, and we're going to be digging into some really fascinating stuff from their latest reports.
Yeah.
Particularly, we're going to be talking about their plans for Southeast Asia. So for listeners, we're talking about a potential for some serious growth here. We're talking about a potential for ROEs, return on equity exceeding 13%.
Wow.
And we're also going to explore how UOB is dealing with all of the current economic craziness going on in the world.
That's right.
So, maybe we can start with a sense of scale. When we talk about UOB, what are we actually talking about here?
Sure. UOB has a really impressive global network. They have 500 branches across 19 countries, serving millions of customers.
Wow.
But what's interesting is that they're way more than just a traditional bank. I mean, yeah, they're into basic banking, but their services go way beyond that. They're into wealth management, investment products, and even these sophisticated treasury solutions for large businesses.
Oh, interesting.
So essentially, they're really catering to everyone.
Yeah.
And they do this through their three main segments. They have group retail, group wholesale banking, and global markets.
So that's how they divide up all their different businesses.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. So it sounds like they're covering a lot of ground.
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier Southeast Asia as a big opportunity for them.
Yeah.
What makes that region so special for UOB?
Well, Southeast Asia, it's got a booming population. There's a rapidly growing middle class, and a lot of people in these countries are just starting to access financial services for the very first time.
Oh, okay.
So the potential for UOB to acquire new customers is just massive.
Oh, wow.
So it's no wonder they're betting big on this region, particularly with the recent acquisition of Citigroup's consumer businesses.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
That acquisition, it seemed like a really bold move. Can you tell us a little bit about the potential benefits and the challenges they might face with this expansion?
Sure. The rewards could be huge. I mean, by acquiring these Citigroup businesses, UOB immediately gets a much larger market share.
Yeah.
In these really key Southeast Asian countries, right? Yeah. And this could lead to way higher profitability as they tap into this whole new pool of customers. But of course, it's not going to be easy, right? I mean, integrating all these businesses into UOB's existing operations, that's going to be a huge challenge. We're talking different systems, different cultures.
Yeah.
So blending all of that together effectively, that's going to be key to their success.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So we've been talking a lot about growth, but of course, I think we have to address the sort of elephant in the room, which is this global economic climate, right? We've got rising interest rates and inflation.
Yeah.
How's UOB handling all of this? I mean, it seems like a pretty tricky time to be in the financial sector.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, right, for any bank right now. But UOB is taking a lot of proactive steps to manage these risks. One of the things they're doing is carefully managing their deposit costs.
Okay.
So, they're adjusting rates on things like fixed deposits to protect what's called their net interest margin. Or IN.
Okay, IM, right. And for our listeners who might not be as familiar with banking, what is net interest margin?
Yeah, sure. It's basically, the difference between what UOB earns on loans and what it has to pay out on deposits.
Oh,
okay. So it's really a key measure of profitability for any bank.
Right. Gotcha. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like they're being pretty cautious with their rates, which, in these times, probably a good idea. But what about the risks to their loan portfolio? We're hearing a lot about potential property market downturns.
Yeah, that's definitely a valid concern.
Yeah.
But one thing that UOB has going for it is a strong loan-to-value ratio.
LTV.
Yeah, LTV for commercial real estate. So what that means is that borrowers have a significant stake in their properties.
Okay.
Which reduces UOB's exposure to potential losses if property values do go down.
Gotcha. Okay, that's reassuring.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about, the company itself. I think now we kind of have to get to the question that's on everyone's mind, which is, is UOB a smart investment right now?
Yeah. Well, this is where things are really interesting. Because despite all the economic headwinds we've been talking about, the outlook for UOB is actually quite positive.
Okay.
Analysts are predicting some some real potential for earnings growth, thanks in part to that expansion in Southeast Asia we were discussing.
Yeah.
Plus, they offer a really solid dividend yield, around 6%.
Okay.
Which means investors can expect a pretty decent stream of passive income.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you remember that provisions buffer that we talked about earlier, it's at 101%.
Yeah.
Which means that they're very well prepared to absorb any unexpected losses.
Sorry, you keep mentioning provisions buffer. Can you maybe quickly remind listeners, what is a provisions buffer? What does that actually mean?
Right. So provisions are basically just funds that banks set aside to cover potential loan losses.
Okay.
So a high provisions buffer, like UOBs at 101%, means that they've been really proactive in preparing for any kind of economic shocks, right?
Yeah.
It's really a sign of prudent risk management and financial strength. And, this positive outlook has led some analysts to upgrade UOB to a BUY recommendation.
Wow.
With a target price of $34.50. So what that means for you as a potential investor is that experts believe the stock is currently undervalued and likely to appreciate in the future.
Gotcha.
Potentially reaching that $34.50 price point.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So to kind of sum up everything we've talked about, we have this really interesting company with a bold plan to expand in Southeast Asia. They seem to be navigating the current economic uncertainty pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like they have the potential to be a really, really solid investment.
Right. A company to watch, definitely.
It makes me wonder, with all this going on, could UOB become like Asia's next banking superpower?
It's possible, right? It really depends on, how they're able to handle these challenges, like integrating all those businesses, and also, of course, just the ever-changing global landscape.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch it all unfold.
Absolutely.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.